I'd like today to talk to you about the sequence of events that took place between when this business was originally founded by my family until the present day, in the form of illustrating those sequences with catalogues. First catalogue that we have in our possession is one that was published by my great-granddad George Collier, who ran a business from his front parlour in a road called Cornwall Road, which is up where Brixton Prison is now placed. And that was there for a number of years, and we have a picture of my great-grandfather outside his shop. Subsequently to that, it was moved to Electric Avenue, Brixton, down in the main shopping centre. This fellow George had a number of children, one of which was my grandfather, and another one called Alfred. And Alfred was the one who founded what is now Monument Tools Limited. Briefly go through here to show you some of the items. He wasn't solely to do with plumbing tools. He had a whole range of stuff for carpenters and for joiners and roofers and so on. There's no pictures in this. It was early days and they hadn't got a lot of money to produce beautiful, beautiful catalogues. Subsequently to that, we'll go to this one, which, as I've just said, was this firm A. Collier, Alfred Collier & Co., was founded by George's son, Alfred, and he started off in King William Street, pretty much next to the monument to the Fire of London, and hence the brand that he took, Monument. He couldn't afford the rent, clearly, in King William Street, so he went back across the river southwards into a street called Shand Street, which was in London SE1. And we have here an illustration of some wiping cloths, which we carried on making until probably 1995, something like that. And this is one of the display boxes for those. Unfortunately, Alfred went broke in 1930, and my grandfather, his brother, bought his business, took his stock over and started a business called the Shech Toolworks Limited, which was named after a sheet hacksaw, the invention to which my grandfather had bought in the middle 20s from a gentleman who lived in Norbury, London SW16 as it is now. And he had these produced for him. There's an example here, and you can see that it's got its box and it's 7 and 6pence, which is what, 37.5p. Absolute bargain, clearly. And the original ones have got Collier Maker Brixton, although actually he didn't make them, he had them made for him. So then we move on from there to the foundation of the Shech Toolworks Limited, which is illustrated by this little catalogue here. This is dated 1933, and you can see that there's a gentleman in Dover who stamped it with his name, showing that he was a stockist, and then the familiar sheet saw appears there again, and notice with the Monument brand beside it. And this really was one of the first editions of the catalogue as we came to know it. These wooden products were produced for us, originally for my great uncle. Then we carried them on and we made these brass followers. We then opened a wood turning department, making mallets and then bobbins and turn pins, which appeared there, and these mandrels. Going on, we had ladles and pots and wiping cloths, which appear yet again, and a patented fixing tool for fixing joints on lead pipe, and so on and so forth, showing that, we set out in life to serve the plumber. And plumbers have been our customers ever since the start, and they still are. The method of production of these catalogues was by letterpress. And in order to put pictures in letterpress printed catalogues, what you had to do was to take the product itself along to an expert who made what they call woodcuts. Now, this is an example of a woodcut, and you can see that it's a sheet hacksaw, which is the same as that. And this was produced by cutting little tiny grooves and slots using these special chisels, I suppose you'd call them. And then once you'd got that, you then produced, from the woodcut, you produced an electro, or in this case what we call a master electro, which was done by a foundry up in London EC somewhere. And then from that you produced printing blocks which were mounted on wood to go into the letterpress, so that the pictures were the same height as the letters, so it all came out as it printed beautifully. The skill required, I'd like to emphasize the high skill used by these people to produce these so beautifully. And there were thousands and thousands of them all over the country. Just as a point of interest, we opened the catalogue as it coincidentally with the sheet saw, but on the right hand page there's this, what they call the Shech bit handle, and we have one here complete with bit. It was made of Bakelite, one of the early plastics that was used. I don't think it was very successful, but it's just a very nice, interesting little item. So progressing on from that, we have perhaps a little bit of a diversion here, where we've got this plumbing magazine called The Plumber. We managed to find quite an amusing page here, which shows my great uncle Alfred advertising his wiping cloths made out of best moleskin. Moleskin, incidentally, has got nothing to do with moles at all. It's to do with a cotton cloth, which is made up in the sort of Rochdale area. And then opposite him, he was in good company with Mr. Thomas Crapper and Company Limited, 120 Kings Road, advertising his wares. And then further over here on the left is our great friends Thomas R. Ellin, which became Footprint Tools, showing a picture of their factory in Hollis Croft in Sheffield. Then we have another one here, which is my grandfather was very anxious to get his retail store going in Electric Avenue, Brixton, which is where he moved from Cornwall Road. He subsequently bought a building round the corner from Electric Avenue in the main Brixton Road at number 453, where the business carried on until it became the Shech Toolworks Limited. Now that asks you to take your cutlery in there, and you could get your mower sharpened for 6p an inch, which is 2.5p an inch. This document shows the original trademark monument along with its what they call device, which is a picture of the monument. And this shows that it was first registered in 1906. So Monument brand has been going since April the 27th, 1906. Collier's was a business that carried on independently of Shech Toolworks Limited, to be called Monument later. And this shows one of the catalogues that my grandfather produced for his retail store in Electric Avenue before he went round the corner and bought 453 Brixton Road. And it shows a great variety of tools, not only for carpenters and builders, but for engineers and all sorts of craftsmen. He became an expert on tools, as well as helping to design them. He also had a great interest in collecting old ones, because he was afraid that old tools would disappear and get skipped. And I have to say that the enthusiasm for that has passed down the generations, and we still do it. These show more modern ones pretty much in progression. This is one which is dated 1980, which you can see now we've changed to Monument Tools Limited, because in 1976 we changed the name from the Shech Toolworks Limited to Monument Tools Limited, which is a much more snappy name, to be brutally honest, than the old one. There's no criticism there of my grandfather, but he didn't want to call it Monument Tools Limited because his brother had recently gone bankrupt, which I suppose is a fair enough supposition. And then you can see we're beginning to get into the pipe cutters that we're now famous for, and the Shech basin wrench, which we've had since 1929. And my father invented this basin wrench that goes underneath the sink to get at the nuts at the back of the tap receivers, which we never made until fairly recently. All sorts of things, caulking tools for drain pipe, and so on and so forth. So that's 1980s. Later, this is an export catalogue, which we managed to get translated into French and to German and to Spanish, which I have to say was not a success. And then later we come up with a much more modern looking ones. This is 2010. Actually, I think a very nice catalogue, and it begins to show toolbar displays 1 metre or 4 feet. Lots of things in colour. It's very, very much nicer. I think that's really, really quite nice. And then bang up to date 2019, which shows the desire to help out the retailer with solutions to his merchandising problems. And then we have details of lots of different toolbar offers with their contents, all highly organised, I believe. I have to say that these toolbars have been a considerable success. Very much into the social network, and believe that that's a good way of putting ourselves forward. All of that is an invitation, of course. If you're interested in seeing the new edition of our catalogue, there is a link on this video. There's a form that you can fill in below, and we'll send you a catalogue. Thank you for listening to me, and see you next time.